Go live. Connecting. 1, 2, 3. Not yet, but we're getting there.
Gesundheit. Oh. Yes, here we are.
Okay, I don't see us yet.
No,
But,
we just popped up.
all right, awesome. Welcome back, everybody. You know who I am, Caroline Best, your host of the Tao of Horsemanship, Everything Horses and More podcast. And you know who my lovely co-host is, Sabrina Arbogast.
Hi, guys.
So yay, here we are. So, all right. So last week, this whole month is dedicated to training the good, the bad, and the wrong. We're not even going to say ugly. We're just going to say wrong. And I say it with such confidence because, you know, for those of you that know me, it's always about the horse. We do not want to compromise the horse. And I'm not saying that during our learning that we don't sometimes compromise the horse. And sometimes we get compromised. But I don't want us to make that into a habit. You know, if we recognize that it's not working for the horse and we recognize that it's not working for the rider or the handler on the ground, then that's key, isn't it? Or we're going to stay stuck in our development or evolvement. So, or evolution. So last week, Sabrina and I were just talking about we're over 7,500 downloads in total since we started our podcast earlier this year. So that's fantastic. We're doing really good. And last week we picked up, y'all can hear me? All right, Sabrina's doing the mic here. Last week we had the most downloads, and last week we spent 2 days talking about lunging, specifically 2 days, and again, the good, the bad, and the wrong. And what's different about this month is we are actually taking other professionals' videos and comparing and contrasting. And that's really important to training your eyes. One thing, if I sit here and talk about someone else and why it's not right, and I don't want to do that to criticize them. This is truly educational purposes. So it's one thing to just sit there and bash someone, so to speak, and criticize them, but it's another to compare and show why this isn't working or why I don't agree with it. And again, I'm always starting off with the horse. What are the signs in the horse, with the horse, that show you that this is not working? And then of course, the rider. And this week we're going to be dedicating today and tomorrow to riding and instruction, the good, the bad, and the wrong. So we've got quite a few videos. And this is just so near and dear, both of these topics, last week's lunging, and I can't wait till we develop our own lunging course and series the beginning of next year. And I, you know, just talking about riding and instruction, it just blows my mind. I always get emails from people all over the world, and it's the same all the time. It might be obviously a different situation, but it's just the same stuff that's being taught, the same puke out there, predominantly being taught. And when I say it with such vehemence, it's because you guys are being pushed, you and your horses, to do things that you're not ready to do. And for all the wrong reasons. And it doesn't need to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. It just shouldn't be that way. So before we begin today, and of course Sabrina's here to take questions, so please share. I wanted to talk a little bit about, this is about riding and instruction. So it's training and instruction, specifically instruction. So you're going to see a couple of videos where people are being given specific instruction on the horse. And these particular videos are just so common, how this trainer or instructor is instructing. It's just so common. So, you know, the horse is not in a good place and the rider's not in a good place. And both horse and rider in these videos are overfaced. They're completely overwhelmed. Whether it's new environment, whether it's just a ton of aids and cues coming at them, both the rider and the horse. The horse is too green and underdeveloped emotionally, mentally, and physically. So to me, that they're just being pushed and rushed way too fast, or maybe the instructor or the trainer doesn't even care, you know, because this is the way we start horses. And so when we get to the videos, I'll point out a bunch of things that my gosh, you know, I know you all have gone through. Definitely. Hey, sweetheart. So what I want to talk about first, though, before we get to the videos, is I want to talk about riding, specifically in relationship to a horse's physical development and what happens to their bodies when they are not being developed properly. It's really horrifying. And I can't emphasize enough that I hear often, you know, how soon should I back my horse or start my horse? I've been told to get on at 2. I've been told to get on at 3. I've been told to get on at 4. And while I may get on a 2-year-old, getting on and teaching the horse a few simple cues like stop, go, and turn is all I would be doing. Helping the horse become familiar with the rider and have a positive association experience is all I would be doing with a young horse from the ages of 2 to 4. And I think most of us can say that, Sabrina, will you kick them out? Will you grab them? Mason, will you help Sabrina, my son's here in school down here, just help them kick the kittens out. I don't need them breaking something. That's a really nice lamp. They're all hyped up. They can go outside. You got Boo-Boo? All right. So long story short is, you know, we all know, or if you don't know, you should know, that a horse's spine doesn't fully develop until the age of 7. So why would we be riding them, intensely riding, like starting them in 30 days or 90 days or for a futurity, reigning futurity at the age of 2? What about racing horses, whether you're standard bred or thoroughbred? It just blows my mind. I think a lot of us, thank you guys, relate and agree to that, right? It's horrifying. Why are we in such a hurry? Where did this come from? Why? Why is everybody telling us we need to start these damn horses so early? And I've thought a lot about this over the years, and I have not done a lot of research, like historically I have not. But, you know, part of my common sense tells me maybe we think that when the horse is really young, we can get the most out of them. And maybe it's part of the ego that, wow, because it's really different starting a young horse compared to starting an older or restarting an older horse. Completely different. You know, different maturity levels, different mindsets. You know, it's just like young kids. You know, younger horses have a lot of piss and vinegar and exuberance and spirit, whereas an older horse has kind of been there, done that. They're definitely more into conserving their energy for the most part. So it's like, maybe that's part of it. Maybe back in the day, starting young horses had a lot to do with, I think there's a lot more fight in them. I think there's a lot more fight because they don't know anything. And if you don't do it right, you've got a hell of a lot of adrenaline and survival modes and instincts working against you. If you don't do it right, if you don't go slow and teach them and educate them, you're triggering them constantly into survival mode.
You know, I think in the barrel racing world, but they take younger ones with good bloodlines. They start them about 3-4 years old. And by the time they're 5 and 6, they can sell them for good.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Cause I'm not, that's a good point Sabrina said. She's like, they start them young in barrel racing so they can put the time and experience when they've got the good bloodlines and they've got the good agility. They show that they can win.
Is over.
Yeah.
5, 6.
By 5 or 6, when futurity is over in barrel racing, then they can sell them and make money. So yeah, that makes sense too. So I guess there's a lot of reasons we're coming up with. And all of them are horrifying because nobody cares about the young horse. Nobody cares about the young horse. And the fact that you don't understand young horses unless you learn young horses. You have no idea. It's like a young kid. It's just like us when we were young. You start throwing at the age of 10 years old, you start throwing what we should be learning at 15 or 16 at us and expecting us to produce the same results scholastically, mentally. How about maturity level? You expect your 10-year-old to act like a 15-year-old? I'm like, it is just horrifying. And so we end up getting a lot of really damaged horses later in life. That's why we just have so many problems. And so I'm really going to focus on the physical when I read this article. And this was brought to my attention by one of my mastery membership students. And she is studying, I don't know if she's studying myofascial release massage in particular, but I've had a lot of students who specialize in this. So this is not at all foreign to me. And I want to bring up particularly the myofascial release massage in anything that deals with not just with massage or chiropractic or acupuncture, but anything that teaches you about the biomechanics or teaches you about obviously the movement of the horse and what happens to the body when X, Y, and Z are done, like when a rider is introduced to the horse's body, or when the horse is forced into a particular lunging frame, forced by means of equipment, what happens. And so again, this is educate and inspire horse owners around the world, and we are a revolution. Damn straight. I may not be sharing all the time new information. Most of the time I am. But we are a revolution, and I am proud of it because I want to just make a huge breakthrough. And I want to support everyone out there that believes the way we do. And I want to make as much of a breakthrough that things have got to change for horses. They've got to change. And in the process of the change, we also will evolve. And it's a beautiful thing and a positive thing. So let's talk about fascial imbalances in horses. So my student wrote, and she shared this information with our private Facebook Mastery Membership Facebook group. She's like, I hope this is okay to share. And I'm like, yes, thank you. I am currently in school to become certified to do myofascial release. One particular part of our reading rang true into what Caroline has discussed about preparing our horses' bodies for riding, about carrying themselves athletically and balanced first, and then the bareback pad or light, well-fitted saddles, and only for short spurts and not daily. Because people ask me all the time, how often do you train? And that's a really hard question to answer. And you guys want to know why? Because if you don't know half of what I know, you're going to try to figure it out every freaking day with your horse. I've been there. But once you know a lot, then it's always about quality, not quantity. It's always about quality. And because you've set the building blocks mentally, physically, and emotionally in place, your horse has that foundation. Once the horse has a foundation, and that's what I'm all about, then everything is progress. And if you do have an impasse, like Lovey gets tight or Sundance gets tight, then you stretch them. Then you might spend that whole session that day, maybe it's just a half an hour, working with their body and letting them tell you how much you can push. And then they're set up, and the next day you might do a little refresher on your lunging and your stretching, and then you're ready for your ride. Who thinks like that though? Instead, y'all are taught to get on your horses and try to make it happen, force it to happen. You don't even know what the hell you're doing half the time. And why should we be here the whole time? Why should we be in the horse's face the whole time? So we're going to talk a little bit about this. And listen, you guys, I can't say that I have huge regret. I could cry talking about this though. But when I came back to horses, I knew damn well that at least my trinity were going to be guinea pigs. You can't get involved in something as complicated as learning horses the emotions, the socialization, the nervous system, the skeletal, the biomechanics, and expect to learn this like that. It takes years, and you're going to be working with so many different horses when you want to do this for a living, when you want to do it as a professional. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. The key thing when you make mistakes is that you're aware that that's it. It's wrong. Stop. Don't do it again. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I don't have any regrets because I stopped. Now, those mistakes have turned into learning opportunities and teaching opportunities. But where I'm headed with the beginning of coming back to horses is, unfortunately, both Sundance and Smokey were so damaged, and because of the damage that they had, and for those of you that aren't unfamiliar, Sundance was going to the kill pen at 3, and Smokey was a disaster at 4 when I got him. I was a 7th owner, and they had so much damage, and I had never dealt with horses like this. I had no idea what I was getting into, that I was very aware just by watching other riders, and that was key. I observed all the time and watched as much as I could. Even if I didn't understand what I was watching, I knew enough that it was different, good, bad, or right. I knew it was different. And so with my 2 quarter horses, they were so emotionally triggered and traumatized that they, obviously, the mental and emotional transferred over into their bodies. So they were tight all the time, tight. And I took lessons and clinics with this professional and that professional, and it was always about, yanking them around. And I'm like, this doesn't feel good. I'm not going to yank my horse around. I'm not going to make it happen. Something is wrong here. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I do believe I created Smokey's horrible arthritis in his knees. He came with that stiffness and brace in his body, and I did my damnedest to figure out. And it wasn't until, much later in his life did he soften. He still was tight though. He carried so much pain. God, you guys have never met a horse like that. But he softened. You get to see those videos on YouTube, but it took so long. And at that point, the damage was done. And Sundance, I just realized from my chiropractor yesterday, I knew she's 19, she'll be 20 next year. And I knew this year we all did here, we started watching her move. I haven't been working with her, but she's getting stiff. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, she's got some inflammation and arthritis. And it breaks my heart. These horses should should not have these issues. They should be in good shape well into their 20s. And all I can base that on is my late horse. I never saw the arthritis until he was 29. And I rode the piss out of him as a young kid, and often, mostly bareback, and often double with my best friend for just a little bit. I think the year before she moved. But I wasn't a trainer. I didn't lunge him and run him. I didn't have contact. I didn't do anything but have a beautiful relationship with him. So interesting to think about that. And he was a healthy horse until he legitimately got older. But now I lost Smokey and buried him at 21 this year? Makes me sick. Now Sundance has really, acute arthritis. It makes me sick.
But what an amazing love you have given them.
Whatever. I know, but I don't want anybody else to go through this.
No.
I knew enough when I got back in, when I saw how they were, and I'm like, this doesn't look like the pros horses. I'm like, I knew, but all of them were teaching it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And that's why I quit. And I know now with my way, these horses are never going to go through this. And the good thing is Lovey, who's going to be 11 in January, had a phenomenal chiropractic appointment yesterday. Now she was tight in her axis, and her pole area. And that's Lovey's fault, not mine, because she gets that way. She's mentally gets tight. You know, you can do things with her and she freezes a little. I mean, that is all Lovey, but her back and everything else she did not flinch. But anyway, so we're going to be charting when I get back into schooling my horses, including Sundance. We are going to chart every month how they're doing. And this is going to be, you know, so they got their baseline yesterday from the chiropractor who I've been with for years. She's amazing and she's holistic. And we're going to go from that baseline. And I'm not saying that I'm responsible for every little issue that they might have within that 30 days. But it's going to be interesting, isn't it? We're going to do a chronicle. I think it's going to be really good for all of us. And it'll definitely keep me on my toes. I'm already on my toes.
Always.
But oh my God, it just breaks my heart. I just love my babies so much. All right, so let's talk about this. So horses, and this is from a book. This isn't from me. This is from my student who's studying the myofascial release. Horses are particularly prone to fascial imbalances for several reasons. Biomechanically, their backs were not meant to bear weight from above, but instead are superbly designed to bear a suspended load. So that does support a good fitting saddle. And I've mentioned this before about saddles in our podcast, that the saddle, all the purposes of the saddle, but one of the positives and the great benefits of a saddle is it more evenly disperses the weight of the human. So it's not just centered in one spot, like bareback riding or bareback riding with a pad. But that's also because we have so many ill-fitted saddles. It's unbelievable. So the horses are not designed to have meant to bear weight from above, but instead are superbly designed to bear a suspended load. Think about I love this analogy. Think about the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. The withers in the top of the croup are like the tail supports, or are like the tall supports. The top line of the back is like the curved wires supporting that holds the actual bridge, the belly between. That makes so much sense. The mere fact that we sit on their back, often at 20% of their body weight, means we significantly impact their biomechanics. Makes amazing sense. So, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge you've got the tall support, so that would be their wither or their croup, and then all the cables where it's not slouches, but loops down, right? That would be the top line of the back. That's where the wire curves like this, the top line and the belly. So horses were designed to move upwards of 20 miles a day with constant slow movement. I talk about this all the time. Wild horses roam within a large territory. Everything about them, from their feeding style, digestive system, and feet, were designed for nearly constant, slow movement with rapid bursts of speed to escape danger if needed. I talk about this all the time. Domesticated riding horses are almost always confined in an area much smaller than what nature intended. Typically, they do not get to move as far or as much as their bodies were designed. This has an impact on their health, particularly their digestive system, mental health, and the toughness on their lower limbs. We place saddles on their back that frequently are not well fitted. Even a custom saddle built for a specific horse will not perfectly fit all the time based on fluctuations. Yes, I talk about this. Fluctuations in muscle tone and conditioning. Do you always fit the same into your favorite pair of jeans? No. That's why we have many pairs of jeans. Sabrina's rolling her eyes. Exactly. In different sizes.
That's so true.
An imperfectly fitting saddle is a bane of body workers and keeps them in business. Think of a poorly fitted bareback, or think of a poorly fitted backpack on you that is loaded with 20% of your own body weight, and you have to go intensively run an obstacle course through various kinds of footing. It's like cross training. That's what we're asking the horses to do. And that's what I teach. We'll get into that in our new course, cross training, Pilates for horses. Think you would be sore the next day? Hell yes. That's me, of course, not the book. Let's say this happens 2 to 3 times a week. So if it happens 2 to 3 times a week, you're not even conditioned, right? So what we put our horses through 2 or 3 times a week at high, like intense levels. And then if we are competing or working towards a performance goal, then we're riding the piss out of them 5+ days a week, or sometimes dressage barns ride them twice a day.
Yeah, if not more.
No, I don't know that.
I've seen more in the western side, not dressage.
Yeah, no, dressage.
They'll tie
Yeah.
them up on the
Well, Western,
tree,
yes, that's Western.
and then they'll ride the next one, and then
Mhm. So your body would quickly build stiff fascial adhesions to protect where the backpack pinches. So your body would quickly build stiff fascial adhesions to protect where the backpack pinches, and would be tender where the backpack is too loose and bangs out. So I often see predominantly in horses, and this is even leisure horses of my clients, right where the scapula muscle is, the shoulder muscle, there's a big round area instead of a flat area. And if it's round, that's scar tissue. And that would be equivalent to an adhesion.
Billy had that, right?
Billy did yep, Billy did.
Yeah,
so does I think Jojo might, but Billy did. And so those horses in particular, like the two of the thoroughbreds off the track, also had roach backs. So their backs were also messed up. And they had ill-fitting saddles. And like I've said often with the race horses, the thoroughbreds, it's not the jockeys that do this damage. It's how they're exercised with too heavy a rider. You know, the stirrups are too short, and they're posting up and down and banging on their backs. And they are exercised on a daily basis this way. So you do the math there. So we often don't provide the best hoof care either. Everyone seems to think their farrier is great, but the hard truth of it is, and I talk about this, is that horses are often trimmed or shod inappropriately. Those of us in the bodywork business see long toe, underrun heels. Yep, on horses like it's an epidemic. Yes. Whether it's a barefoot trimmer or a shod horse. Imbalanced shoeing sets up an imbalance across the entire body. Absolutely. We typically put bits in their mouths. The tongue and lower jaw of the horse was never meant to have a downward torque. It's never meant to have a downward torque. And it wasn't meant to have pressure put on it. Yet this is exactly what happens with bits, particularly with curbs and shank bits, or a heavy hand of a rider. This immediately puts pressure on the hyoid apparatus, which ultimately strongly affects the chest and shoulder movement, and the TMJ, which immediately transfers the stress to the spinal vertebrae. And Smokey had horrible TMJ. He had it. Smokey was a mess. He had liver disease, got liver disease when I got him. He was just a mess. So that was taken from a book that my student was studying. And I went on and found I think it's an awesome Facebook page that I'm going to share with you guys. And we'll put it in on our Facebook too when we're done. But it's Whole Horse Connections. And the Whole Horse Connections, where it just gets in a little bit deeper. I think it's a good website to just check out. Restrictions in the fascia are the cause for many equine performance issues, such as shortened stride, unevenness in gaits, pain, and resentment of work. Below is a very good article written by the folks at the Fox Fun Equine Center that discusses what fascia is and why it's important to maintain its integrity. So I want to read this before I show these videos, so you guys can start thinking, what are you looking at? This again is about education. What are you watching? And particularly the trainers or instructors that I'm comparing and contrasting with my work, because you're going to see me and my student riding. And so you're going to see completely different styles of riding, completely different horses with the riders, and movement and different strategies to helping the horse that is either unsure or stuck, mentally or physically. And the biggest comparison is that I'm not telling my student that you see who I'm filming riding to push the horse through it and just keep trotting the horse. You're going to see such a softer, more delicate, thoughtful way of helping the horse figure out how to release. And the videos that we gathered are also videos from our off the track retraining course, where we took the 3 thoroughbreds that I had at the time. We took them and put them through my mastery membership program in 90 days. And so it's perfect because the comparison videos are also, one particularly is an off the track thoroughbred, and it's the opposite. And I just want you to look at the horses, because they're going to look completely different mentally and physically. And I already know this stuff. Okay, this is why I develop horses the way I do and don't do what these other people are doing and teaching the world and compromising these horses so that the rider can feel good about themselves or win a ribbon or be taught the wrong way to resolve a problem. Any questions?
Yes, we do.
Let me just get through this and then I'll answer them. Basically, a restriction in the tissue is an area with limited blood supply, oxygen, and QI, electricity, in the blood. So electricity in the blood will always choose the path of least resistance, which means if the electrical pathway is blocked due to restriction and congestion, blood, oxygen, and electricity will find a path around it, since electricity always chooses the path of least resistance. This stuff is phenomenal. This means that the area that is lacking these vital elements will stay in a chronic state of tension. This is why I talk so much about horses retaining memory on a cellular level, on a fascia level. So when the horse stays in chronic state of tension, this is when the body is remembering, plus it's already created a new way, which is not the right way. It creates tightness in the fascia, creating a strain on all it is attached to, which is pretty much everything, which will cause compression of the tissue, resulting in hypersensitivity of pain receptors, AKA the why can't the vet figure out why my horse is sore dilemma. I can't wait to show this video because it is predominantly 90% of what's going on out there in every discipline, even natural horsemanship, which is not natural.
It's interesting.
Microcurrent therapy has the ability to force current back into restricted tissues and return the body to its non-restricted state. Basically, with the use of microcurrent, microamps are applied directly to the tissue with the use of electrodes. I've had that done in physical therapy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to. We all do, to get re-stimulated, to help develop the muscle when there is no muscle. Because my leg had completely atrophied from, this is when I was a teenager, from the break in my knee. So I split the tendon over my knee, and yeah, so I had no muscle left by the time I went into therapy. So you electronically stimulate it, like what they're talking about.
Wow.
And so this, yeah, it's like number one. So the current begins to hammer away at the tissue until it finally releases the spasm. Oh, they do it until my legs was spasming, allowing blood flow. QI, which is electricity, oxygen, through its once blocked pathway. So equine fascia is tough connected tissues that create a three-dimensional web. I love the photos that they have on this Facebook page too. So fascia is tough connective tissue that creates a three-dimensional web extending without interruption from head to toe. Fascia is the connective tissue that links every tissue in the body. It connects the tissue to the muscle to the bone, and the organs to each other. Fascia is immensely strong. It's like webbing, you guys. It's really cool. Someone has estimated that it can withstand more than 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. The white glistening fibers you see when you pull a piece of meat apart or when you pull chicken skin away is fascia. Fascia consists of a complex which has 3 parts. Elastin fibers, this is the elastic and stretchable part of the complex. Collagen fibers, these fibers are extremely tough and give support to the structure. Ground substance matrix, a gelatinous-like substance that transports metabolic material throughout the body. The fascial system generally supports, stabilizes, and cushions. It creates separation between muscles. It also creates space through which delicate nerves, blood vessels, and fluids can pass. Fascia has the ability to actively contract in a smooth muscle-like manner and consequently influence musculoskeletal dynamics. In a healthy state, the collagen fibers wrap around the elastic fibers in a relaxed, wavy configuration. So basically, simply put, every time I assess a horse, I'm assessing everything. I'm looking at it, I'm feeling it, I'm watching it, but I'm feeling it, not just feeling of it, I'm touching it. But I already can tell when the horse has so much tension in its body and that it's penetrated through the fascia tissue, and its neck, its body, like Karma, when she first came, is as tight as a board on a 2-year-old that had no training before she came here to us. Within the 30 days that she was here, the level of mental and physical relaxation that I was able to produce, obviously, when you're tense, no oxygen, electricity, nothing's moving and penetrating, right? So once she's able to start to relax mentally and physically, the body changes completely. And that's why I will always argue that you can change the conformation of a horse. You cannot change the skeletal, but you can change the muscular aspects of the horse. Absolutely. So much of that has to do with the fascia tissue and tension or relaxation. When fascia is injured, an inflammatory response causes it to stiffen. Exactly, that's what Karma had, affecting electrical conductivity, muscle contractions, blood circulation, lymphatic drainage, and the circulation of fluid in the brain and spinal cord. This impacts the horse's ability to move and to learn. Oh my God. Bam! I think that just nailed it. And so what do most trainers and instructors tell you to do? Move that horse, push that horse, run that horse. We're going to see some of that. Wow. Stiffened fascia leads to poor posture and biomechanics, with lowered strength and endurance, with an impeded or painful nervous system. It can lead to dull, reactive, or unpredictable behavior. Oh, they ain't coming in. Chronic pain or stress also impacts the fascia. Constant tension in the muscles reduce circulation, causing the fascia to become stiff and dry. This tensional network may then shorten, thicken, become dehydrated, and consequently affect muscle function and joint mobility. This in turn, well, the muscle will die too. This in turn typically displayed as pain, discomfort, stiffness, or decreased mobility and altered movement. Under these circumstances, fascia not only loses its ability to communicate via but it also loses its ability to lubricate, insulate, envelop, and functionally support all of the body system. It may become excessively bound or stretched and cannot respond rapidly to required functional changes in posture or movement. This is also why horses tie up. This explains why some people may have pain that appears unrelated to their original injury. I mean, this all the time throughout the day, especially whether I'm riding or I'm working in front of that computer. Facial constrictions, the gait aberrations, and dysfunctional movement patterns. These are present when they are backyard horses or top athletes. These facial or soft tissue dysfunctions lead to pain and lameness. The fascia will adjust to postural imbalances over time. That makes sense. The body is compromised. The imbalances must be corrected or the horse rider will encounter resistance, stiffness, and avoidance. Wow. Riders should also address their own poor postures, which can in turn affect the way not only the rider, but also the horse will move. So the basics of horse riding include balance, posture, and seating. And we're going to see some really shitty riders. And nobody's talking about that. No, keep the horse moving forward. Keep the horse moving forward. Ride through it, ride through it, ride through it. So without balance, posture, and correct seat, the rider will make the horse's back sore, leading to injuries of the limbs. Okay, pretty powerful. We've got 2 days on this. So whatever we don't wrap up today, we are going to conclude tomorrow. So where are we with questions?
We have a question from Karen. She's asking, can you talk about overweight people riding in bareback pad versus a saddle that would disperse weight better if the saddle fits properly?
Great question, Karen. Yes. So let the horse tell you. If you are concerned about your weight in proportion to the horse, and we do need to take that in consideration. It's just like me riding Legend, and I've gained weight as I've gotten older, not much, but I've gained weight, and I can't really gain any more weight for how small Legend is, my little Arab. We do need to take that in consideration, but the horse will tell you. So I could say, yes, Karen, if you're a more overweight rider, is definitely designed to a good saddle, definitely designed to disperse the weight. It still isn't perfect. What if you're not a good rider? What if you're taught to ride incorrectly? See, that's what I'm trying to impress upon all of you. There isn't just one answer. The saddle is not the answer. Losing weight, a bigger horse is not the answer. You know, how are you riding? How is your horse moving? These are the things that we have to take into consideration. Your horse might already have an imbalance and be higher on one side because of the way they're carrying themselves and drop a shoulder and lower on the other. I mean, there's so many things that a saddle is not going to help, and it has nothing to do with your weight. So you just have to listen to your horse too. And when you learn to ride the way I teach with the bareback pad, I often say it's a very humbling experience because you cannot afford to get hurt. You can't take risks and be cocky or just stupid because you got nothing to hang on to. So when you're in my mastery membership, when you develop your horse the way I'm teaching you guys, one, you're always developing the horse's movement, the movement that you want to ride. You're developing it on the ground before you ride it. So the horse is ahead of the game. They're ahead of the game in their stamina, their strength, and their balance. Now I'm going to teach you how to ride that movement and without a saddle, with the bareback pad, but without a saddle. And it forces you to go slow. It forces you to really do your pre-flight and check your shit. Because not my problem if you guys get hurt. So I'm trying to teach you all of this stuff. And you can only provide so much in a program. And believe me, the program is massive. That's why we do these podcasts, and that's why we do the weekly webinars. Because you have to have, all this stuff is going to come up. So I wouldn't look at it. It's a great question. I get that question often. And there are many things to look at, many variables to look at with your horse. The horse will never lie. And especially if they have a relationship with you, they are going to trust you, and therefore they're going to express and talk to you Okay. They'll get really mouthy. All my animals are mouthy. My kittens are mouthy, you know, the dogs, the chickens. You want them to express. My stepson's mouthy, but you want them to within reason. You want them to be able to tell you how they feel. So one of the things I'm going to be bringing up in the Mastery Membership webinar on Friday, and I'm going to tell you guys now in this podcast, is, you know, I haven't been schooling my horses for a year and a half now, and often I mix my herds, but I have to go and bring Sundance and Legend in the evening, and that means if they don't come when I call, which they usually do, I will go out with just a neck rope or nothing and go out, you know, it's basically 10 acres way over there, and jump on Sundance, or basically get her to, I can't jump on her anymore, get her to pick me up off of one of the logs out there. Well, she bit me last week. She left a good bruise.
Yeah, Sunday.
You saw it on Sunday. And that was not, now she's a biter. She's so transparent. She'll tell you exactly how she feels about everything. And then she bit Legend after. But I mean, I brought her up. She came to me. She had no problem. I just jumped up on the log and asked her to come over to get me. There's my permission. And she did. She side passed right up. Lovey came up behind. And I was loving on her back because I know that she gets sore, and I've been watching her move, and she's been stiff. And so everything was fine, you know, loving on it, pushing on it, loving her, waiting to make sure everything's okay. And she turned around and bit me. Now she can do that when she gets overwhelmed and bossy, overwhelmed with too many in her space. Lovey was behind, you know, Legend was on the other side. He got bit too. And sure enough, she was out in her withers. Now, when I get on, I'm strong, I'm balanced. I make sure that I'm not jumping on my horse anymore, that I get on very softly, especially Sundance's back. I'm very aware. And I really try to balance out my weight. I'm not clumsy. I don't dig my elbow into her, not anymore. Sure enough, her withers were out. She was out all over, you guys. So she was telling me. Now, she still got that on her shoulder, because I was like, damn, that hurt. And we have such a great relationship. You don't need to bite me. You could have pinned your ears. You could have muzzled me. You could have pushed me. You could have backed away. You don't need to hurt me. And it hurt. And then she bit him. Legend next. I'm like, nobody's here right now, but she bit Legend. So I did that to her because he went, and I'm like, stop it. So should I have gotten on? Well, I got on. And for Sundance, she's very transparent. If you go to get on, whether it's a saddle or bareback, and she has a back issue, she's going to flinch. She's going to tell you. All my horses will, because the relationship that we have, the transparency that we have, the honesty that we have. And there was none of that. And I did the same thing with her last week. But she didn't bite me. None of that. And when I sat on her, she moves so fluidly underneath of me. I know when she's hurting. So that's just one of those calls you personally get to make. You know, no one's going to judge you. It wasn't obvious or apparent that there was anything wrong because I already touched her. I didn't go hard. But I'm like, man, I know my mare. So that was a little uncalled for. It's all good though. We're fine. It's really great information to share with you guys. That is for sure. Any more questions?
Yeah.
And Karen, I hope I answered that. I don't mean to be vague, you guys. It's just often we are presented out there with these matter-of-fact black and white answers. And there are so many variables. There's so much to learn and to take into consideration. Even if you don't have a really good relationship with your horse, horses are really transparent. They are within their own society. That's what just makes them so amazing. They are, they're always very clear and healthy, usually when they're healthy, with their boundaries. Sundance is super honest and super clear. So yeah, it's all good. And anyway, when I smacked her twice on the shoulder, my horse doesn't flinch. I don't hit. I hit her, but I mean, she's just like, she didn't even do this. She was just like, yeah, I did to her. And I'm like, that really hurt. And she was still looking at me. Well, that really hurt. And then she went and bit him. And I leaned over and smacked that shoulder. And she's just looking at me as I'm leaning over her back. So it's obvious she is not scared by that interaction. So, and I didn't do it to scare her. I just did it so hopefully it doesn't happen again.
We just got a question in.
Okay, one more question before we start.
And Karen said, yes, thank you. It's a question that arises so often with women, so I wanted to hear your take on it.
Yeah, it does, Karen. Women do worry about their weight. Your balance is most important. I have seen some heavier riders who are phenomenal dancers, just beautiful movers. And to dance well, it's kind of like martial arts too. You got to be able to be balanced. And I've seen some heavier riders who are beautifully balanced. And so when you're balanced on your horse's back, that is what helps to create an even disbursement of weight. You're not hanging on your horse. So that's something to consider. Oh my God, she's having a conniption fit. Get a grip, you guys. My kittens. Yes.
Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer.
So when looking for a horse for just pleasure riding, should I avoid a performance horse for fear they will have joint problems as they age?
You just answered your own question, Jennifer. Yes, that's your intuition, your gut, and your common sense screaming at you. Mm-hmm. So yes, absolutely. And yeah, avoid a horse that's been a former, and that's one of the things that lures and seduces people into buying all these old, God, I've had so many clients who have bought, older women who have bought former cattle ranch horses that were maybe 6 years old, and they see the videos of them, and they've been out there working on their range and the cows, they must be going to be the perfect trail horse. And I mean, I've met probably 20. Okay. It's just horrific. And that's a lot when I was up in the Maryland, PA area. That is quite a bit. And so they get seduced by these videos because they're out west and never really get to meet the horse. And the horse can walk, trot, and canter, lope on a loose rein, can work a gait, it can do this, that, and the other. It's bomb proof. Well, once the drugs wear off or the horse wakes up and realizes that it now has a person that actually gives a shit about them, they go ballistic or they completely break down. And then I've seen the former pleasure and reining horses completely, and not to mention dressage. So yeah, there is no easy way, okay? The best way is to buy a younger horse that you can evolve with and develop with and grow with. That is truly the best way. Because when you buy an older horse, you're going to inherit someone else's problems, someone created problems, whether they're physical or mental. So much of our systemic issues with horses isn't just with horrible training. It's also with starting them way too young and starting them wrong. Mm-hmm. If we could just get hold of these young horses and do it right, they'd live a lot longer and healthier. And also one quick fact about wild horses. In the wild, they really only live till about the age of 15, you guys.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm. And they, that's about it. So our domesticated horses are living twice as long. Yeah. But what are we doing to them too? Most of them are crippled, and we've got them on drugs to keep them alive. It's horrifying. So why I'm bringing up the age of 15 in wild horses is because, I mean, horses, then these are horses that are roaming up to 20 miles a day. Now they're not, as we read earlier in this article, so to speak, that my student had presented, and I've already know this, and I preach it all the time. I mean, they're not running, they conserve their energy, they're smart, And when they have the ability to move and cross terrain, they have the ability to file their hooves down naturally and evenly. And how do they take care of their teeth? They grind small stones. They're smart. They chew wood, whatever they can to grind their teeth down. They're very intuitively, horses are amazing at taking care of themselves and getting well if we give them a chance to rebalance internally their systems. So that's a hard question, my dear. Often you'll find someone will have an older horse that they've had for a long time.
7, 8, 9. So she asked, okay, with that, a young horse, 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, that's young. Horses really don't fully mature mentally and emotionally until 10. That's all breeds, and their backs don't mature until 7. But a lot of times, kids are going to college and parents are stuck with a horse or a pony that's just been, the girl's best friend. So there's a few of them out there, but you definitely need to be educated and don't be seduced and lured into, well, the horse has been there and done that. Look at neck ropes, look at it lopes on a loose rein. Well, let me tell you something. Getting a horse to do that, 99% of the time, it has been torture. Now you can do that. You can do it my way and take your time and build that relationship and build that mindset and develop the horse so that it's in, its parasympathetic nervous system, it's calm and relaxation. And then you'll get all of that. But that takes time. It takes time. All right, you guys ready? We're almost, let's get to one video. We'll save the rest for tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Okay, we got our disclaimer.
Give them a teaser.
A little teasers, right? All footage taken falls under fair use. Okay, this is for educational purposes only. Now I want you guys to watch and listen.
Good. And just think about it. It's a training. He has to go where we tell him to go. Yep. Good. Good. I think we might have an easy job today.
Are you seeing the video?
Good.
Are you seeing the video?
Oh, shoot. Oh, sorry, guys.
Is it 50 times?
Let me start over again. I always do this. I forget that I have to share the video.
Okay.
Hang on. We'll get in a little bit. I have to share the video, so let me get back to Zoom. So what I want you guys to pay attention to when I have to share my screen, when you see this video is, what do you see? My question is, what do you see? What doesn't look right? What doesn't feel right? Hopefully all of it doesn't look right and feel right. Not to mention what you're hearing the instructor tell the rider. And we're not going to get to the compare and contrast probably of my student riding one of the OTTBs until tomorrow, but we'll review. I won't have so much reading to do. So we'll just go ahead and review. So let me get here. Let me share this. So don't worry. We'll bring this back up tomorrow. Okay, now you all should be able to see it, the disclaimer. Now let's just listen. I'm just going to listen.
Good. And just think about it. It's a training. He has to go where we tell him to go. Yep. Good. Good. I think we might have an easy job today. Good. So is it perfect? No. Is it 50 times better than the start of last session? Yes. Good. And just work on keeping the same rhythm in the walk. Asking him to lower his head, feeling both sides of the mouth. You want to be able to feel that you've got the left side and the right side exactly the same. Come on, walk on. Good boy. Good. Yep, walk rhythm, play with the lower fingers, trot, 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 trot,
Oh,
trot, trot.
I hate this. Let's back up and talk about it real quick. All right. Okie dokie. So what do I see? Let me share with you what I see. Let's get it going.
Good. Good. I think we might have an easy job.
So right there, I'm not saying that this isn't going to happen to any of us, including me, of course, but you've got you'd have to play this over and over again, but to watch all the things that are going on. His horse is completely overfaced. So what this rider is being taught to do is kick him, and she's got spurs. So she's kicking him, she's squeezing him, she's in his face, and she's constantly trying to keep him in a frame. She shouldn't be in his face right now. What is she wanting to accomplish would be my first question. So what do you want to accomplish? Why are we overfacing the horse with 10 different cues or responses? She's losing her weight. She's being pulled forward. This gets worse, trust me. Every time he falls in, they're tracking to the right. So when he falls in off the wall of the arena, you know, she's trying to block that with her leg, her reins, and it's creating a lot of tension and defensiveness in the horse physically, but mentally, it's so much information for him to pay attention to. If he doesn't trust her or trust the arena, trust the situation, he's not going to listen to her. And the more she keeps feeding him all of this information, the more he's sliding and switching into his sympathetic nervous system, his survival instincts. And that's why he takes the opportunity to spook. He's at that point, I say he takes it. Some horses will do that on purpose to just, they're done. They're fried, get off of me. Maybe take isn't the right word. At that point, whatever he's spooking at, as we're going to watch, just again adds to everything and escalates, and then she punishes him.
Good. So is it perfect? No. Is it 50 times better than the start of last session? Yes.
So granted, she would argue, the trainer, that when he does what the rider wants, she leaves him alone. There's that old principle of pressure and release. So my whole principle is, where and when is an opportunity for us to guide and redirect the horse? And if the horse has that much tension, I don't want to ride the horse. I don't want to figure it out. Then the horse needs more time on the ground. And as I teach, oh my God, more than 75% of all of your riding issues can be totally changed and replaced with your groundwork. So that there's minimal riding, that, not saying riding's not going to be a trigger, but minimal riding that needs to be done.
So is it perfect? No. Is it 50 times better than the start of last session? Yes. Good. And just work on keeping the same.
So he's slowing down. So he keeps slowing down.
Feeling both sides of the mouth.
Stop. He keeps slowing down, and she keeps pushing him forward. So right there, the horse is shutting down. He's going into freeze mode. So she might think he's lazy, which a lot of horses are mislabeled and misunderstood, and that's why she's got spurs on him. But I mean, to me, this is just going, it shouldn't even be this way. Like if I know that the horse and the rider are having a hard time in this space, this environment to work in, why aren't we testing it out on the lunge? Let's say the first thing I would do is, okay, we're going to come into this new area and we're just going to start using the arena as our, for our lesson. And we're going to use it for our lunging only to see how the horse feels about this open space. Or maybe the horse just comes in and he's not even concerned about the space. So there's so many things to think about and to listen to. Let the horse tell you how they feel about it before you ever get on and try to ride all of that. And just think about the fascia information that we just discussed. And the horse is so tense and bracing and defensive and resistant. And it just doesn't need to be this way. It really doesn't. And it shouldn't.
You want to be able to feel that you've got the left side and the right side exactly the same.
So there's no relaxation here, meaning the walk, we should always work towards a big, stretchy, loose, free walk. That is always should be our warm-up. And that should happen both in our lunge styles and in our riding before you do anything else. It's part of your warm-up. It's part of my warm-up every time I ride. How does my horse feel? And for me and my horses, where we are at, can we go into that arena space on a loose rein and just go straight? How do you feel if you're lopsided or falling in, or you're short strided? I'm going to be able to feel all of that. And then what do I do with that information? Maybe I get off and we go back to lunging that day. Or maybe I can work it out with a stretchy walk and a lot of loose, light suppling. But we don't need to be here. We don't need to force it. Think of all the damage we're doing. And this is what just eats away at the horse's trust and confidence.
Come on, walk on.
Okay, one of the things I want to mention too, when you are riding, and I say this in my program, I say it all the time, your horse's ears should be mostly on you or floppy. So floppy ears, I call them gremlin ears. And you see with Lovey a lot, especially in whenever we've been schooling and we show those videos. Lovey is just amazing, where her ears are on the side of her head and they are just flopping. They're just flopping, whether it's in the free lunge or riding. And then if I'm riding, they're like radar. You know, one might be in front a little bit, but they're always tuned into me. So the only time I'll see ears like this horse on my horses is when we go to a new place and a new trail ride. And when you see ears like that, normally your horse is tightened, they're tight, and their neck is raised, and they have a bit of adrenaline. They're worried. They're not thinking about you. This horse is thinking about what the heck is in front of him. So why aren't we stopping? This is a perfect opportunity where I would tell my student, let's just circle back, come back to me. So that would be an approach. I can see the horse tensing, the student can, let's retreat, because it's a threshold. We must respect these thresholds or they will kill us. That's why so many people have accidents.
Good boy.
And so he's slowing up, he's slowing up.
Rhythm.
He's like, nope, I don't want that black hole.
Trot, 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 and trot around the whole arena. Trot, trot, trot. Yep, same trot rhythm. Think forward, think go.
What, hon?
I don't even know what she's trying to do.
So I've definitely seen this before. Sabrina's like, what is she doing? Why did she make her trot? So the horse kept slowing down, kept freezing, and everything in dressage, especially with this particular trainer, is about forward.
Yeah.
And so just make the horse go forward. Just make him go forward. He doesn't want to go forward, just make him go forward. So what happens when you go forward is a horse is going to go forward, but then the escalation is going to be 10 times higher. The opportunity for the horse now in a bigger movement to pick up big movement or buck or have a bigger spook is 10 times greater, isn't it? Because what's happening is the horse is already on adrenaline at the walk, the creeping walk. Now you've put him into bigger movement, and naturally when a horse produces speed, they produce adrenaline unless they have emotional agility. Emotional agility is the same thing I've talked about all these years. It's the same thing as being able to self-regulate their nervous system. And so emotional agility is what enables a horse to pick up speed and not lose their mind. Because in the wild, they conserve their energy. They only pick up speed when they are faced with a threat. So this horse already feels threatened. He's overfaced. He's got somebody screaming at him with all these aids constantly. So that's like interfering with him paying attention. Everything's just escalating and building. I would have done the absolute opposite in every which way. Most of all, I assess all the time. Every time I have a lesson with my student, I assess. Even if my student says, I really want to work on this, or we were working on X, Y, and Z last week, and I noticed that this week the horse is not the same or the rider's not the same, we will switch gears completely. I mean, what's the definition of insanity? And most importantly, if the horse is locked up in its survival instincts, they can't learn. They're not thinking. Everything they're doing is driven by natural instincts, okay? Fight, flight, and freeze mode. Have fun with that. You do not have a thinking horse right now. This horse is not here, but he's sweet and she loves him And by the grace of God, he's not going to kill her. Look at that little trot.
Yep, forward.
And she keeps being, oh Lord, keeps being thrown forward, the rider.
Go up and
Her post is off. It's horrible.
So look past E, look to the mirror. Yeah, doesn't matter. Right to the mirror. Open up the urina and kick. Open up your outside drain and kick. Yeah, that's not a problem. Don't care how you get there, as long as it's forward and you're staying on the track as much as you can.
Did you hear that? I don't care how you get there, as long as it's forward and you stay on the track as much as you can. Well, I don't know what the hell just happened there. We went from a slow, short-strided, tight, stressed trot to a bigger trot, but not much. And then he picked up the canter, and then he was canter half-passing. And he was crooked and he wasn't straight. And in between all of this, she's rising, she's doing the posting trot, and her stirrups are too long. So she's slamming down and she's getting thrown forward because he's so tight. His movement is choppy. I call that, it's like riding a, oh God, I can't think right now. I call it all the time. It's like riding a pogo stick. Bam, 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 bam. It's almost impossible. And believe me, I've taken those lessons where my instructor has screamed at me like this. I don't last long with them. And to go forward and just keep pushing that trot and just keep doing the rising trot, and then work on your half halt, Caroline, until you can control the trot. I mean, it's just a nightmare.
You feel you've lost that shoulder.
It's a vicious circle.
Open up your left rein. Kick with your right leg. I don't care if it's in gallop.
So why are you even, and I don't care if you can gallop, so I'm sure the rider feels really safe right now. Why are you giving the horse all of these cues when the horse is so obviously not paying attention? And why isn't the horse paying attention? Because it's in its sympathetic nervous system. It is in survival mode. I don't mean to pick on this particular trainer, but she represents the majority. And she is very popular. Every one of my instructors has taught like this. Some of them were softer. Some of them were even gentler, so to speak. But they all taught like this because they were taught like this. And it's just sickening.
As long as his shoulder stays on the wall.
And she can't even rise in her trot. She's constantly being thrown. The horse is so inconsistent. He's not regular. He's not rhythmic because he's not relaxed. So he keeps tightening up, shortening his stride, lengthening a little because she kicks him so hard. And then she's just up and down and all around in her post. So she's slamming down. Thank God she's a little woman on a big horse. Can you imagine if you're a bigger rider on a smaller horse, slamming down on this horse constantly? And another thing, which was to mention too, is also the conformation of your horse when we're talking about weight and bigger riders. So, you could be a bigger rider on a smaller horse, but if the horse has a really great back and top line, maybe they're more compact, shorter back, so they've like Sundance, well, she's got a long back, but she has a really broad back, then you have a lot more area underneath of you as a rider to match more of you. So if it's like if you're a bigger rider and you go to sit on my little Arab whose back is like this, you don't have much to support your seat or your balance. So it's gonna be a lot harder for you to weeble wobble. You got a lot more weight of your own that's gonna influence how you handle your balance. So you could be a bigger rider on a shorter horse as long as conformationally that horse's back can really get underneath your seat, and you feel like you're not going to just go this way or this way or this way or this way.
Same thing here. Open up your left rein, right leg, left rein, right leg. Well ridden, well ridden, well ridden. Don't ever block him from going forward. You asked for forward, so don't block it when you get it.
Why is forward so flippin' important? And there's like 20 things that need to be worked on. Forward will happen when the horse is free mentally and physically. Oh my Lord. Any questions?
We have a question, but it was earlier from the wild horses when we were talking about the wild horses.
Okay, go ahead.
Question about that. Let me find it
because we're going to wrap this up and pick up tomorrow.
Perfect. Because wild horses, oh, I'm sorry, Carla asked, because wild horses grind their teeth down naturally, do domesticated horses not know how to do that and don't need their teeth to be floated?
They do. That's a great question, Carla, about horses naturally grinding their teeth in the wild with stones. Oh, it's instinctive. Our domesticated horses know how, but how many have an opportunity to grab stones? I've seen, over the years, I've seen many horses that have been in my care do that. I say many, maybe 20. It's not a lot when you against thousands, but that's a good indication that you need their teeth to get looked at, get floated. So you won't see that often in our domesticated horses because we have dentists. Hopefully they're good. Most of them aren't. So I think that's what you need to think about is our domesticated. It's not that our domesticated, we don't see it happening often in our domesticated horses because we take care of their teeth, so to speak. And, but if you do see it, you need to pay attention to it. It's just like when we moved here and we had a lot of dirt brought in, clay specifically, because we have really soft sand here. So we moved from the ranch. We had it there too, but we had more grass. So the grass held the sand together, but we had what they call sugar sand down here. And so I had imported a lot more clay, and Lita, Janine's horse, was eating the clay. Well, it makes sense though. I know this, you wouldn't know this, but you know, what do wild horses do? They know how to take care of themselves. And clay is one of those things that helps to soothe the stomach. Like if you've got gonna go after what it knows is gonna work for them. And so Janine was like, oh my God. I'm like, nope, leave her alone. Let her, and she doesn't have a reason. You know, she was eating the clay. Mm-hmm. So it's just pay attention to stuff. Your horses will find what they need. All right, we are going to pick up because all together we have an hour's worth of video to look at. So we're going to save that for tomorrow. We'll pick up where we're at. And I would love it if you guys would email me with any questions about this video so far or any training. And you can email me at caroline@dalofhorsemanship.com. So thank you guys. I certainly hope we can keep sharing this information and spread the word. And we will see you this time tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
May you always be one. See you guys later. And I'm gonna figure out how to get out of here.